This is the way I make my inhibitor sleeves for my 2-inch fuel grains. I like the cardboard that comes in like cereal boxes, cake boxes, soft drink cartons, things like that. And I start by kind of working the cardboard over an edge. It kind of gets it started in a roll. And I make my cardboard pieces about 7.5 inches long. They overlap about an inch when they're in the sleeve. So I put just a small amount of glue on one edge. Kind of overlap it a little and stick it in about halfway. Then I have this tool that's just a piece of 3/4 PVC with some, I believe it's 1/2 inch pipe insulation, but it just makes a tight fit. If I see any spaces that need to be closed, I try to close them. And I let that set for about 5 minutes. After the glue has dried for 5-10 minutes, I kind of twist the thing to make sure it's not, because sometimes the glue goes on one, sometimes it sticks in here, so I kind of break it loose. And I take a razor knife and I kind of pinch it so it doesn't keep moving. So there's your inhibitor sleeve. This is the way I cast my fuel grains. My base is a 2-inch PVC coupling, but it would probably be best to use a 2-inch coupling for 2-inch electric metal tubing, rigid, because the threads aren't tapered. And this, I had to heat this up and make the threads form to the pipe, and it's not exactly the best way to do it, I don't think. But I have an index mark to show me when I'm all the way down. When it's down, the bottom end of the pipe is resting right on the board. There's no gap. It's tight. So the next thing I do is I attach just a kind of a, basically a funnel or something to help get the fuel in there. I've just kind of wrapped it through the hose clamp. Just a few suggestions for making your casting sleeve for your fuel grains. It's a 3.5 inch nipple, which is just right for my fuel grains. It could be possibly referred to as a 3 inch, I don't really know, but it measures 3.5. And what you do with your about 1 inch section of pipe coupling is you thread it on here, and if it's not perfectly square, just thread it down until one edge touches the table, and then what you want to do at that point is weld some angle iron tabs to it, and kind of screw it down, weld it, put another tab, 3, 4, 5, whatever you want, but that'll make sure that your nipple is square with the bottom edge. And the way I make my core true is once you get little attachment points for your coupling thing there. One thing with this PVC also, I have some cross threads in there somehow, and I have to be very careful to get it in the right spot to start it out with, or else it gets a little cross threaded. But the way I make the core square with the base is I cut some 1/2 inch dowels, and that's the thickness of my my web on my fuel grain. So I stack the little pieces of dowel all around the core, and the hole that I drill in this is just a little bit oversized, and I put some epoxy glue in there so it's kind of free to move a little, and the dowels will position it the same distance at the bottom as the top, and should be square when it all sets up. So I put dowels all the way around. Usually I don't have this piece of paper in there when I do that. I might have wrapped some tape around each one of them to make them fit more snugly, but the paper is because the inhibitor sleeves are just a little bit undersized for the pipe there, and the fuel tends to go down through here. It makes them hard to remove. So I've put a piece of file folder the whole circumference of this, and it just makes it makes a nice tight fit so the fuel doesn't get stuck in there. Sometimes I have to move it out to get it started. So it makes a nice tight fit, and the fuel doesn't run down through it. And okay, ready to cast a fuel grain. I'm going to cast a fuel grain here. First thing I do is this is silicone plumber's grease. Takes just a little bit. It's not really too necessary to coat the core, but I like to coat the bottom here so it turns loose on that. It just takes a little bit. And I have a piece of file folder because the inhibitor sleeves are a little bit loose in that pipe, and the fuel kind of goes down beside the inhibitor sleeve and it sticks in the tool here, so that makes it so it comes out of there a little easier. So once I have the sleeve in there, oops, wrong end. I have an index mark to show me where the bottom is. So ready to cast. This is my leftover fuel from my last batch. I heat it up to 350 degrees. Then I add my 100-gram sorbitol. So now it's ready for the potassium nitrate. Here's my sorbitol and the remains of my last batch of rocket fuel. So I add my potassium nitrate for a 300-gram batch. I use 105 grams of sorbitol and 195 grams of potassium nitrate. You can tell when it gets mixed, it gets real slick looking like this over here. Just gotta dissolve all those lumps of potassium nitrate. So once it gets to that real slick consistency, it's ready to cast. And, as long as all the sorbitol is mixed in there, sometimes it kind of gets to one edge maybe, but that's all pretty evenly mixed now. So my fuel mixture is up to temperature. It's got that nice slick look to it. So it's time to cast it now. I just put a it just runs down one side and goes to the bottom. You should wear eye protection and gloves. It's really hot. This moves pretty easily with tapping it down like this, but I haven't ever had a problem with any voids. When it gets to the top there, sometimes it kind of spits a little, so that's why you need to have some eye protection on. this 1-inch USS washer on there. Takes about an hour and a half, two hours to cool. This is how I remove my fuel grain once it's cast. I remove the the 1-inch USS flat washer, and I just unscrew the casting tool. And this is still fairly soft. It's just warm to the touch right now, but I don't like it to. I either put this in my motor immediately when it's at this stage, or I put it in a piece of PVC just temporarily until it cools, because I wouldn't like it to get too far out of round.